And now it's time for Guerilla Roundup. They'll let you know what happened overnight when things transpire you whilst you sleep. Right there in the loop you keep.
Well, welcome to the Guerilla Roundup for the second day of the 2025-26 Ashes, the second day of the first test from Perth. I'm pleased to say I'm joined by yet another Guerilla cricket debutant, William Munt. Welcome, William. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. So yes, I'm a student from the University of Brighton who I'm doing my work placement with Guerilla Cricket at the moment. And so, yeah, I've been down in their studio for the past couple of days doing a bit of social media stuff and then also some written articles as well.
Excellent. Thank you. And I have no doubt you're exhausted after 2 all-night sessions, but
Yeah.
it's been interesting.
Yes.
So today has been, I thought yesterday was crazy. Today was probably more crazy. I'll get you to start off, if you will, William, with a very brief summary of the score for the day and where we ended up, if you could.
Yeah, sure. So on the second day, the first test of the Ashes series has now finished. England kind of came back, resuming with Australia on 123 for 9. They were able to clear up and clean up the innings quite quickly, with Cast removing Nathan Lyon for the last wicket. And then England came into bat again, starting off with a 40-run lead. They managed to get to lunch at 59 for 1, so leading by 99. But a collapse of 4 for 11 in the middle led to England eventually being bowled out for 164, target of 205 for Australia. It kind of felt like potentially competitive, but probably not enough. And then with Travis Head opening in place of the injured Usman Khawaja, he took the game away with a 69-ball century. And so Australia eventually won by 8 wickets.
What a crazy day.
Yeah.
I've got to say, I thought that total would be too much for England to chase. But let's just go back to the beginning. It seemed to me that there were 3 distinct phases of the day that reflected the different sessions, actually. The morning session was pretty predictable, I would have said. And maybe you could mention the England wicket that fell in that process, because you mentioned Lyon getting out. So Australia were all out for 132. What happened in the to Crawley this time?
Yeah, so this time slightly different dismissal. But I think he faced one less ball this time around. So yeah, to start, kind of same again. Potentially held in the wicket slightly, but he just popped back the course and bowled. Very good catch, diving from one-handed, course and bowled. But yeah, unfortunately for Crawley, a pair in this first test.
Yes, yeah, I think it's not too many Australians surprised, to be honest. I've got to say that Stark's caught and bowl, I think it's the best caught and bowl I can recall ever seeing. It was quite extraordinary for a man of his size and height to reach to his left so quickly and pull it out. So, unlucky for Crawley that someone should actually catch it, but it was a pretty ordinary shot. But
yes,
as you said, we got to lunch. The Duckett had a dismissal reversed on review a couple of balls before lunch. So it looked like England were in a very solid position. They were about 100 runs ahead, 1 wicket down. Looked well set to set Australia target 400 or 500. The wicket didn't seem to be playing up much. Is that a fair way of looking at it?
I think so. Yeah, I think like you said earlier, it's quite kind of predictable almost first session. Really, I think it was a lot calmer than yesterday actually, and yeah, it seemed like England were in a good position, as you said, like kind of 100 for 1 in terms of their overall lead. And also, they'd been slightly calmer, I thought, in the first session as well. There were a couple of moments where like Duckett tries to use his feet, or Pope kind of slashed a few outside off stump and played a miss. But on the whole, they're a bit more restrained, which kind of seems as if it was going to help them in the long run. Because like you say, the pitch didn't look to be doing too much at that point. But then obviously, kind of as I'm sure we'll come on to, it did all change into the second session.
So at the lunch break, I headed from home towards the ground.
Yeah.
And by the time I had arrived, I'd left home with a score at, I think, 57 for 1. By the time I had arrived, England had lost 6 wickets. What the fuck happened in that period?
Well, I think, to be honest, I think it was probably more, if you look at it, poor batting from England. I think the first wicket trying to spark it, Ben Duckett was a reasonable enough dismissal from Boland, decent enough ball, and a kind of regulation edge through to Smith at slip. But from that point on, England, I kind of feel, lost their heads almost a bit. I mean, Ollie Pope chased one that was very wide, and then Harry Brook, third ball, driving a ball that he probably didn't need to at that stage of the game. So those were kind of two loose shots then. And then even kind of, I suppose, uncharacteristic for Joe Root, really, kind of the one he dragged on. And so that's kind of the 4 wickets that fell in really quick succession, the 4 for 11. So that was kind of the main collapse. And from that point, they just never really recovered. And I kind of felt, especially like going even further forward, they had a brief partnership between Atkinson and Carse. But with this England team, you always know there's a wicket around the corner. And even if like you are going to concede, I suppose, 50 runs in maybe 10 overs, you know that wicket's going to come. And obviously it did. And ultimately they had too few in the end.
Indeed. What you mentioned, some careless shots. The thing that struck me is I was just reviewing the wickets that fell, and yeah, the tail's going to do what the tail does, but the middle order, the footwork is almost non-existent. Even Joe Root. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just shocked because that's not a feature that's brought about by this pitch. I don't think it's just poor technique, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. And also, I think that's probably where people will point to preparation as well, in terms of not having played much cricket. Because yeah, even like with Ollie Pope, he'd actually got a couple of cuts away, but he was looking kind of a bit streaky in that area. And then chasing a wide one that he didn't move his feet for at all. And then I think Harry Brook often that's kind of his style. He doesn't tend to move his feet as much as I guess maybe like a Joe Root, and he will kind of drive from that kind of still position. But obviously, probably not from the third delivery, and obviously give himself a bit more time. And then Joe Root just does seem slightly out of form at the moment, which from an England perspective doesn't look too good, especially now they're 1-0 down.
Yeah, absolutely. So by the time they were all out for 164, and there was some good hitting from Atkinson and Carse, both of whom hit a couple of sixes, which I think, to be fair, was the sensible thing for them to be doing at that stage.
Yes,
just hitting what they could. Atkinson got 37, Carse got 20, and that was fine. Archer was out for 5, but 164, 204 the target, I think it was, 205. And I thought, well, given the way that Archer and Carse in particular had bowled in the first innings, I thought that was going to be a really tough ask for Australia. I think it was fortuitous for Australia that Khawaja was injured and that they had to make a decision, and it was a clever decision to put Head in. But even so, I didn't think the England bowling was anything like what it was last time. Archer was bowling 10 kilometres an hour slower than he was in the first innings, and just seemed like they didn't have their hearts in it in the same way.
No, they're definitely that kind of like a zip, like you say, was missing. Like the speeds were down, and I think something that's kind of often been attributed to the way England are playing currently has been that they don't give their bowlers enough rest. But then again, I suppose the Australian bowlers didn't have much rest either to kind of counter that argument. But they're just it definitely wasn't the kind of the same England that had bowled in the first day. And then when you've got someone like Travis Head, as soon as they'd kind of got to, I suppose, like 50 without loss, and at that stage, I suppose Weatherald hadn't really even got going yet. And then kind of from that point, when you're only chasing 200, it's kind of just one or two good partnerships can kind of get you through. So that's why it kind of felt as well that England need to start well. Once they hadn't, they kind of just seemed to like lose like all their plans, all their kind of decision making. It just kind of, it felt almost like, I don't even say given up, but it kind of felt like they were resigned, and they were kind of just, they were almost like, rather than think about how they're going to get Travis Head out, they were one thing about containing him. And then I also think they were like bowling, rather than bowling to like the player, they were letting him kind of dictate where they were bowling as well.
Yeah, I got that feeling very much. And at one stage, when Travis Head was on strike, there were no fielders in catching positions, or sometimes they had a short leg or a gully. But it was as if, as you say, resigned, I think is a good way of putting it. And
Yeah.
uh, it was it was very un-Stokes-like, if I can say that,
Yes.
because my experience of watching Ben Stokes is that he never stops, and that he's always looking for new and quirky ways to do things. And there didn't seem to be much evidence of that today. He only bowled what, 2 overs, which were sort of fairly ordinary.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was like that. I was pleased from an Australian point of view to see Jake Weather at least get a few runs. He got 23, and he actually
Yeah.
batted quite nicely. And until he nicked one off to Duckett, but even so, it didn't make much difference in the end.
No.
Uh, Travis Head was eventually out for 123 off 83 deliveries, but by then the game was well and truly over. And Stephen Smith got to hit the winning run,
Yeah.
which was strange. Um, but at the end of the day, it's what's so extraordinary to me is I was looking at the beginning of the England innings, and I watched the India match against Australia last year, where
Yes.
Australia managed to dismiss India cheaply, but then fell in a heap themselves. And India
Yeah.
went into the second innings with a lead of 44. And then they went on to win the match by 250 odd runs. And I thought, well, there's no reason England can't do the same thing.
Yeah.
What was a big difference, though, was India started the second innings with a partnership of 201,
Yeah.
England of 0. And it sort of
Yeah.
went downhill from there, really, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think actually I was kind of thinking kind of along a similar line at the innings break. We were kind of looking in the studio at the similarities between the India and Australia game last year.
Yeah,
And I think obviously from one point of view, I was thinking that I think the big one was Jaiswal got 161 in that innings. And if I suppose if you're kind of looking at matching him up with an England player, it probably would be someone like a Zach Crawley in
yeah,
terms of kind of the way he plays. And I think obviously for so long that's kind of been like the England kind of narrative around Zach Crawley's in they're picking him because they think he can have those one-off innings. And this felt like that could have been his chance. And then even going into that India innings again, because they ended up getting about 500, that they had like a Virat Kohli to kind of come in and get 100. And I was thinking from that kind of could like a Joe Root do that as well? If we get off to a good start, can he like kind of run through the innings and then maybe get a kind of similar score? But as soon as Zach Crawley was out so early, it did just kind of a nosedive. And so often with England under Brendan McCullum-Stokes, they've relied on a good start from Duckett and Crawley in their bigger totals. And as soon as they're down early, you've got Ollie Pope coming in, a very nervous starter. And it kind of just can go quite downhill quickly. And they're not normally either very good or very bad.
yeah. I think that's certainly true. Crawley's test batting average is now down to 30.96. In
Yeah.
Australia, his average is 20.75. Uh, I know that they've stuck by him a lot. Are they going to keep doing that? Can they afford to?
Well, I kind of feel as if they have to at this stage. I think what from kind of a couple of perspectives, really. Obviously, they've stuck with him for so long, so they kind of almost have to at least see out the series. And then also kind of feels as if there's no kind of ready-made kind of replacement. Because
Yeah,
I think, especially in the squad, you've kind of got maybe a couple of people who, if needed be, could go into number 3 in terms of you've got Will Jacks and Bethel who they're kind of looked at. But that doesn't kind of leave you with an immediate option to go up and open the batting. And then even if you look at the Lions tour, there's a couple and maybe someone like a Ben McKinney, but he's kind of, I think he's just too inexperienced at this stage. He got a few runs against England last time out. He's got a couple of championship hundreds, but it just feels as if like they've
yeah,
committed to Zach Crawley and he's kind of got that experience now that no one else they could probably pick does have.
yeah, yeah. So the question arises. I saw this very much as a test match that England had to win to have a
Yes.
chance of winning the Ashes. And now that they've lost it, I mean, it must be hugely demoralizing to have fallen over the way they did. Are they broken? Do they have a chance of coming back that you can see ahead of them? I mean, this was a match where Australia didn't have Hazelwood or Cummins,
Yeah.
where Khawaja was injured, and where actually Nathan Lyon, who was irrelevant in the scheme of things,
Yeah.
was off for most of today as well with an injury apparently. But
Yeah.
if they an understrength Australian team uh, ended up winning by 8 wickets, which seems
Yeah.
extraordinary. How much do they take with them into the next test?
I do unfortunately think, kind of from that perspective, I think that probably is England's best chance gone. And I now struggle to see England coming back and winning the series, definitely, because it did kind of feel like this was such an opportunity. And also, obviously, there's a fact about Hazelwood and Cummins being missing, which was such a big kind of thing that England felt as if they'd obviously need to win. But also, they've often been labelled with criticism about how they've kind of been on top in situations and not kind of like landed the knockout blow. There's been so many times where they've been in a good position and kind of let teams back into it, and often through a poor batting display. So when they had that kind of 40-run lead, no Cummins, no Hazelwood, it felt like, right, this is your chance. Go and set 300, 400 and get that first win. And as now they've kind of lost out on that, they've ultimately lost the game quite comfortably in the end. And also, I think psychologically, they may be impacted by the way that Travis Head played in terms of how his kind of almost showed them how they should be playing.
Yes.
So I think carrying that forward, I do struggle to see England probably winning the series now, and especially also with the pink ball test next up, and Australia generally quite strong in those tests as well.
Yeah, indeed. The pitch itself, do you see that had an advantage to either team at all in terms of what happened?
Not particularly. I think, if anything, it kind of felt as if it probably should have maybe advantaged England that little bit more. I felt just in terms of, because there wasn't much lateral movement, or it definitely wasn't as much as the kind of uneven bounce. If you're kind of looking at the Australian attack, people like a Doggett or a Boland, they probably rely a bit more on the lateral and sideways movement. Whereas with the England attack and the pace they have, especially, it did kind of feel as if that uneven bounce could help them. And obviously, it seemed to do so in the kind of the first innings. But I just think, especially second time around, obviously, I don't think the bounce didn't seem as uneven. It kind of seemed to maybe smooth out slightly. But they just seemed to be bowling either too full or too short. There's kind of no in between.
Yes.
Either they're getting driven way too easily or clipped to the pads or pulled. So they just seemed to get it all wrong and kind of waste that advantage that it felt like they should have had.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to say, although it was over in 2 days, which is slightly disappointing, I really enjoyed the pitch. I like to see a pitch that has bounce and pace like this one did.
Yeah.
But it is very testing for batsmen who aren't used to it. On both sides, I thought there was some pretty poor batting. And I can only hope that it gets better the next test. So a couple of questions for you. First off, your Guerilla of the day, or of the match, if you like. You spent 2 days now in Guerilla Towers, witnessing Guerillas at play. And we usually try to nominate someone who's had a standout performance either on air or in the green room, or maybe by virtue of messages they've sent in. Anything stand out for you in terms of all of that?
I thought Nick's commentary was quite good. I quite enjoyed listening to his commentary. I think over the
it's good. Yes.
Over the test. Yeah, he was kind of some kind of good insight.
Any embarrassing moments there? I mean, we're much more interested in exposing appalling behaviour.
Oh well, in terms of that, I think who was it? Was it Jason? I think fell asleep on air.
Oh, excellent! I'm pleased to hear that. That's been a while since someone's managed that.
Yeah, I think it was coming towards the end. He was about to go on air, and he did say, "I'm feeling quite tired, but we'll give it a go." And I think he was briefly asleep on air, so that probably would have to be that moment. Then,
definitely the Guerilla of the day.
Yeah.
And the highlight of the day for you from the cricket itself, or anything around the cricket?
That's a good question. I think the highlight will probably have to be Travis Head's innings. I know it's probably like kind of the boring answer, really, but I think that was kind of just, and also kind of just even thinking like that he showed England how England want to play. I kind of always felt. I think like that is like, because I'm quite a big fan of like the style England want to play, but I think so often they kind of get confused, almost don't kind of play it how they should do, and that is like the innings like you want to see from the kind of the way England wants to play. So I thought that was probably a standout moment.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the thing that, apart from the cricket that stood out for me today, was when I was leaving. I was there with my 4 grandsons and my son-in-law, and we were walking outside the statement, and we went past one of the storage room and realized that after 2 days, there's been a lot of alcohol, a lot of drinks, a lot of food consumed. But in those storage rooms is the food and the drink for another 2 days. There are
Well,
mountains of food there that
yeah,
are not going to be
yeah,
consumed tomorrow. God knows
yeah,
what happens. I don't know that it'll wait until next week when there's an AC/DC concert on there. So it may
yeah,
be the place to go for some free food at the moment. It's the Perth
yeah,
Stadium. Uh,
yes,
it's the first 2-day Ashes test since I think it's 1921, is it?
yeah,
At Nottingham.
yeah,
142 overs altogether in this match, something
yeah,
like that, which is crazy stuff.
yeah.
Uh, but the one thing I can say, and I hope you found this, is that it was incredibly entertaining. Uh,
Yes, definitely so. I think, yeah, because often there has been a lot of talk about over rates and how they've not been as good. I think yesterday they're kind of maybe
yeah,
16 or 18 over short,
yeah,
kind of in that kind of an area. But I understand, obviously, people maybe feel like they're paying for that kind of product or
yeah,
amount of cricket. But I do feel that kind of such an entertaining day, especially both days. If I was going to the game, I'm not sure I'd be that bothered. If you see yesterday, you saw 19 wickets fall. Then today, England were bowled out, and then I think there were 350 odd runs in the day. So I think it's been very entertaining. Yeah. Hopefully, some longer games in the future and kind of a more competitive finish. But I thought there were definitely elements where it kind of was kind of going, the momentum was kind of toing and froing, and that was also probably the most exciting bit. The fact that for a long period you kind of weren't sure which way it was going until Australia kind of midway through today got into the ascendancy and kind of ran away with it in the end.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for a splendid debut, William.
Oh, thank you very
Uh,
much.
I look forward to catching up with you during the next test, but you can have a
Yes,
couple of days off now and
perfect.
make the
Thank you.
recovery. I've got to tell you that Perth is now full of about 15,000 English people who've got nothing planned for the next 3 days. So there may
Yeah.
be a mayhem on the streets of Perth. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
But thank you very much, and we'll catch up with
Thank
you
you.
next time.
Yeah. Thank you.
There's the bear in there, and Hendo as well. There are jingles they play, and swear words to yell.